Welcome to the Women in Vinyl podcast with Jen DiEugenio, founder of Women in Vinyl, and contributor Robin Raymond. This podcast facilitates conversations with those working in the vinyl record industry to educate, demystify, and diversify the vinyl community.
You can call me dogmatic, sensible or pragmatic and intellectual. Ghost contacting, pseudo-spiritual. You could say I'm dramatic, I have been known to have panic attacks. I'm so self-critical, I hint at naivety. I got the mind of a wishing well. I'm sentimental, above rational. I have my grandfather's painting, but it's freezing outside.
Thank you for joining us on episode 45 of the Women in Vinyl podcast. You just heard Winter Lining by Canadian artist Q Varro off her upcoming album Cowboy Witchcraft, being released on Robin's new Red Spade Records label. Find more on the label launch, Q's album, and where to purchase the physical release via www.qvarro.bandcamp.com and also at redspaderecords.com. In this episode, we are sitting down with Pierre van Dongen from Green Vinyl, a conversation we've wanted to have and share with you all for a long time. Green Vinyl is working to innovate the vinyl manufacturing process by developing an environmentally friendly and alternative production process for vinyl records. It's replacing traditional plastics for eco-friendly materials. Learn more about their innovation in record pressing, where things stand now, and ways in which we can help advance a more eco-friendly product that we will all still enjoy in the same way for years to come. Thank you so much for joining us. We have been excited to have this conversation for a while, so I'm glad we were able to make it happen. And we'll sort of just dive right in. So tell us a little bit about you, how you found your way into the industry.
So I've originally out of the CD, DVD industry, started in the Netherlands at a company called ODME, who made equipment to produce CDs and DVDs. They brought me to the US, and through quite a few years in that industry. We started, me and three of my friends, all Dutch guys, started for ourselves in the CD and DVD industry. So we mostly did second-hand equipment for CDs and DVDs. Became very quickly one of the larger reseller of that used equipment. We were also the only ones who would install it at factories with no risk and train people, train the whole facility. So 2016, we got a lot of requests suddenly for secondhand vinyl equipment, and of course, very, very little available. And what was there was, really old. Most of it got scrapped in the late 80s. So we got that question once, twice, three times, and then we started thinking like, wow, what's going on? So we dove a little bit more into it. And one of my my business partners, Harm Teunis, is a very, very experienced molding engineer. And he goes like, this is weird. We should look at this in a different way. So he found a big how do you call them, old Philips video disc mold. Mm-hmm. Put that in a molding machine, did a one-sided stamper from a vinyl stamper against it, injected some, I think the first one was PVC or so, or no, not PVC, polycarbonate into it, and it worked. He could play it, and that kind of was the start of it. So we started developing a new method of making vinyl records in an injection molding way. That was already done in the late 80s. I think Japan did a lot of research to that. But that got put in the fridge because the CD came up and vinyl was on a downturn, so they really did not continue that research. So we that's kind of how we got into the vinyl world. We started off with that. We after a lot of requests, we received a grant from the European Union, from the Dutch government, to do some more research on it, together with quite a few different companies, and that went actually pretty well. So now we have a molded record out of PET, and which is PET is 100% recyclable. It's less damaging also on the stampers. If you can imagine, traditionally you kind of roll the puck of PVC from the inside to the outside, and you're pushing against the inside of the grooves. With molding, you inject very, very hot plastic, I believe it's something like 300 degrees Celsius, into a mold that closes, cools off real quickly, and that solidifies the record. So the sample lifetime is a lot longer also. I think we're up to over 10,000 shots on a set of stampers right now.
Wow.
But the goal was to make records either at equal or maybe, if possible, better sound quality than the traditional ones. Same feel, almost no difference to the end user. That was the goal, but at a lot lower cost and lower energy usage. So we had it actually a month ago. We had it qualified by an independent laboratory, and with the dryers, the printer, the whole molding system, everything connected, we use less than 0.2 kilowatt per hour per record.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Compare that to for 180 grams record, traditionally you're probably at a 2.8 to 2.9 kilowatt. So huge savings. Everybody wants to get better for the environment and do their best. So that was a huge step. Next to that, we also thought, well, all the labels, that's a lot of paper, also not great for the environment. So we have developed a direct to record printer. So we print directly on the record. We don't use any paper anymore. We use very little ink. It's a UV curable ink. Also completely recyclable in the system. And you can do that on demand. So if you do 500 records, you need just 500 prints, and not, like with the labels now, you probably have to order 530 or 540 labels from both sides. So that was it's a big savings, and also better for the environment.
So what does it actually look like? Because I think a lot of listeners are used to or understand the process of, we're putting stampers in a machine, we're pressing the puck, the labels are in the machine. Does this look similar to that process in how these are made?
Yes and no. So the stampers are exactly, almost the same.
They're ceramic, right?
No, the stampers are made the same as for traditional vinyl. So we do that here in Pineville, in our office here. The only difference is that we don't have to form them. Typically, you form them on the outside and coin them on the inside for either a Phoenix Alpha or 2Lex or a viral mold. Ours are completely flat, because they are put into a mold. Their flatness has to be very equal on all sides, on the inside, outside, and on the four quadrants. So we go with a 250 nanometer thickness, whereas traditionally everybody just weighs the stamper. It doesn't matter if they're thicker on the inside, outside, and that creates, sometimes a little process problems to get everything correct. But the stampers are same nickel. So what happens is the first of all, the molding machine will mount stampers. The molding machine will close its mold. We inject a hot plastic PET into that with a cooling channel. We cool that off real fast. The mold opens. A robot takes them out. Then it gets cooled for a couple of steps, and that same robot takes a record which is already cooled in and puts it into the printer. I can actually send you guys a video that makes maybe a little bit more sense, or it's available on LinkedIn. Our LinkedIn page has pretty much all the videos.
Awesome.
So it's all completely automated. You really don't need any people anymore to handle anything. So we don't have to trim anything off of it. The only little waste or stuff we can recycle is a small sprue on the inside, which is not even a gram or so, and we can regrind that, put that back into the system.
So kind of like a pin flash.
Yeah. It's the process is very, very similar to making a CD. It's just bigger.
Yeah, cool.
Interesting. And so, what is that cycle time like?
Cycle time is just below 20 seconds.
Wow.
So
Wow.
I think he's at 19.8. Typically, we just run flat 20 seconds, and so 3 every minute.
Yeah, I mean, a little scary that it would eliminate so many.
Oh, the dogs. Yeah. Pierre, we're trying to find jobs for people over here. What are you doing, man?
Luckily, there's a lot of to be honest, the more important jobs for quality control, people who listen to the records, packaging, still, mainly you can automate it a little bit, but to do that right, you still have to have a lot of people.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is kind of on one side. You need less people. Pretty much, we say one operator for 2 machines, 2 to maybe 3 if you run a really big order, but safely said is one operator for 2.
Well, and how much, what's the footprint of each machine? So we've all seen kind of the inside of a pressing plant and what that looks like. Is it similar, smaller?
Bigger. It's definitely
Bigger.
quite a bit bigger. Yeah, you probably could fit at least 2 traditional presses on the spot.
Okay.
Which, if you roughly said, a traditional press can do around 500,000 records a year.
Yep.
Ours can do 1 million plus. So all in all, that compares to each other.
What about the amount that you can fit, because the process is different? Are you able to fit more on the stampers, or is it still the same amount of music?
So it's exactly the same. The final record, if you really look at the record, they're a little bit sturdier because the PET doesn't flex, or actually doesn't change form after you cool it. There's also a benefit, I've had one laying in my front window in my car for the summer just to check it out, see if it worked, and it just stays the same. But the only real difference is it has a square edge on the outer edge, so it's not tapered. It's square. It's the only, if you really look at it, that's what people say, hey, wait a minute.
Yeah.
That's the difference I see.
Yeah. Well, and I cut PET. So I'm familiar with it as well. And you guys actually gave me some to test cut. So
cool.
It's in there. It's in the queue of things to do. But I mean, it's getting down there into the lathe cut community too, which is kind of cool, because I mean, having PETG has been pretty awesome because it is recyclable. So I worry less about my footprint because of my errors in cutting and stuff too. So
yeah, and those are a little bit different PET than what we use for molding, just because of the heating of the needle or your stylus, and then how it cuts, how it flakes, or how do you call that, curls. We've done quite a few research on that too, and I think we have something which has a fairly decent noise floor. I mean, at least not like the ones you get kind of cut out of the big sheets of flat PET. They're still wavy. They're still been rolled. So, but we make those the same actually as the regular records, just only with two
No stamp.
flat
Yeah.
stampers with nothing on there.
Yeah, it's great.
And to put it sort of plainly for people, like, is this recyclable in a way where they could like put
I
it in
hate
their
this record.
in their yeah, like this record sucks. I'm gonna put it in the recycle bin. Or is it like after some time it's not gonna last like a normal record will for thousands of years?
Actually, it will. So we've done some research. We had an audio engineer grab a record and play that song over and over and over again, and recorded every, I think, 20 or 30 plays, and he could only see a sound degradation after 400 times playing.
Wow.
Compare that to a regular record, you're looking at probably 60, 70 times.
Okay.
And it is because the material in principle is harder.
Mhm.
PET is a little bit more durable. So, and I always say, like, who's going to recycle their records?
Right.
And I mean, I see a whole bunch behind you. You will never, if you do anything, you give it to somebody else, or you sell them, or you're never going to throw those away. It's more in the production process where the recycling comes into play, and in the overproduction, where for example, we made so many Adele records and they didn't sell all. And it's of course easier to recycle and put it into a different PET product, either a storage container, a bottle, anything like that. But it is possible to, especially black, to just regrind that, stick it back in.
Well, and I think that would be the next question for everybody, because the question that I got from when I was telling people that we were going to interview you, it was like, oh, but what if I don't like green? And I was like, no, it's not that all of the records are green. They're recycled or they're able to upcycle. So is there still the myriad of colors, and does it have to be a solid color? Are there effects that are possible with injection molding?
So our begin material is completely blank, so it's see-through. We can also do make those, and you can see straight through it. It's like a glass pane. What we do before the plastic pellets go into the barrel, they get a little bit of dye, and that dye makes the color. So either black, red, green, and they can do opaque or translucent. So here's a translucent red.
My favorite.
Yeah,
they're always my favorite.
Translucent red.
Oh, nice.
Anything, and I actually like the purple. Sorry. Purple looks also.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty.
And so there's a tiny little bit of dye into this, which colors the pellets of PET, and then it melts and you get one color. So it's super simple, actually. And we also don't have to have 20, 30 different colors on stock. We just have one big bag with PET and a couple of cans of dye, and that's how they do it.
So what do you think that it will take at this point for the industry and consumer to fully embrace this process?
Artists, I think. We see that of course there is a big pushback from the traditional vinyl manufacturing plants, and understandably so. It's also not a replacement of that; it's an addition. We feel that the artist has to push this, and we're talking to several large artists who say, yes, we need to do something for our environment, and it is more important than just money. And there's, especially in Haarlem also, we had a lot of discussions and a lot of presentations about, how can we be more sustainable? How can we get greener, less energy? And there's a whole lot of ideas and plans. But the biggest issue is, as soon as that release date comes closer, it goes out the door. Then we're not going to look for a transport which is cheap or which is better for the environment. No, it needs to get there, so we're going to fly it. Mm-hmm. That's the whole idea. Has to be pushed by the artist. And when the artist wants that, then it will happen. And the good part is that this method is also very competitive in price.
Yeah, that
That
was
was
going to be
my-
my next question. Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
I mean, working in a record store 3 times a week, that's, I mean, I hear it all the time. And as part of the sales team where I'm buying new records and we're watching the prices from the majors increase time after time, and you're looking at what you had this record for, 3 months ago, and you're reordering it, and now it's 15 or 20% more. How does that, where does that part of the conversation come in? Where are you approaching? Are you talking to the labels or to the artists directly and saying, like, here's the product, you can do it?
Both. The labels are of course very interested, but I think the artists we're currently talking to, they will decide. I mean, you also see that more artists want to be in control of their own music and their own production, their own media out there. You see that Metallica, joining with Furnace.
Mhm.
I mean, Metallica is one of the first ones to really start doing that, and we hope that with us that will happen the same with one or two big artists.
So we're just hoping that Taylor Swift gets a piece of green vinyl in her
Yeah.
bus, and then it's all good, right? That will pretty much do it for everybody.
Yeah. I mean, somebody from that caliber, that will definitely help.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Okay, well, how do we do that?
We're working on that. That's for sure. I mean, we work together with a group, and there's some, let's say, very, very well-known artists involved, and yeah, hopefully next year we'll have a system here in the US, or multiple systems.
You all know by now that Robin and I are on opposite ends of the record organizational spectrum, but one thing we do agree on is how fantastic Keppel Design's record dividers and record blocks are. Beautifully handcrafted by expert craftswomen in San Francisco, Keppel dividers are sleek, sophisticated, customizable, and built to last. No matter how you organize, Keppel are the dividers to use. Get $10 off your first order of $85 or more using code WOMENINVINYL at checkout. www.keppeldesign.com. That's KOEPPEL design.com. And now, back to the episode. So if a pressing plant wanted to invest in having something like this, is it something that they could reach out to you and try to set up getting a machine or a system, or is it at this stage you're developing it for the artist level?
Yeah. So at this moment we decided that let's first do it ourselves. We have one facility in the Netherlands where we have the beta machine. The next one will be here in Charlotte. That's Q1 next year, if everything goes well. And then we'll build on that, so we can first let's get this bigger and more acceptable by the general public and the artists and the studios, and then we'll take the next step. But for now, we decided that we wanted to keep it in-house. We've my business partners all have been service engineers and technicians, and they said, well, really, I don't want to travel that much anymore.
Yeah.
They don't, they're getting a little bit older, have kids, and they said, well, we prefer to be at home instead of on the road, because these guys were definitely road warriors in their younger days.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, a great place to have it is the Netherlands, because there's some really robust labels there and in Europe specifically. So I'm sure that because the governments are so much more progressive over there, that there's probably some incentives government wise to subsidize some things for artists to be able to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't heard from any subsidies for artists. But one of the big things in Europe, they were way further there than here in the US, the CO2 tax. That's a big chunk, and that's only going to be bigger. The Netherlands is one of the main pushers for that. Typically the Netherlands wants to be the best kid in the class, so they're very progressive in getting everybody off the natural gas. All sustainable energy, heat exchangers into houses, etc. So they push that a lot, and once if you look at the savings just on the CO2 and the energy, if 93% less CO2, that's also 93% less CO2 tax you have to pay. So that might be a big incentive for finally the whole vinyl community to switch.
And you're saying it's a potential as like a bolt-on into an existing plant, right? Like, would you use the same infrastructure for chillers and things like that?
So you don't need the boilers anymore. So don't use any natural gas. What we need is a molding machine, the printer. You have a PET drying system, because PET typically wants to collect moisture instead of get rid of it. So you have that. You have an air compressor. You have a chilled water system, closed loop, and that's it.
Cool.
Wow.
So there's no natural gas, no steam boilers, no expensive piping, etc. It's just electricity.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
Aside from, I'm sure, what would be tons of hype stickers if someone did move forward with this, what would the consumer know the difference? Like if they put it on their turntable, what would be the difference, if any?
Nothing.
Yeah.
So there's no like calibration or anything?
No, nothing. Probably 90% of the people won't even see it or hear it or feel any different. Until you start really looking at it, like, okay, it's got a square edge.
Mm-hmm.
It feels maybe a little bit different, but the weight is the same, 180. We can't do anything else but 180. I mean, that's what it is.
What about sevens? Are you going to do sevens?
We haven't made
the best records in the world.
Actually, it should be way easier to do than the 12-inch.
Yeah.
Because the hardest part is getting all that liquid plastic to the outside of the mold. 7-inch would be, I mean, it's just a little bit bigger than a CD.
Yeah.
Not that hard. So that it is a step we will definitely do. We will just have to make a different mold for that mold size.
Love it.
Yeah. But yes, if you feel them and you bend them a little bit, you could probably feel like, yeah, this is a little bit different material, because it will pop straight back in the original form. So
yeah, the center label thing is super interesting too.
Yeah.
Well, and it's similar to the record that Anuk and record industry did that looked like a stained glass record. So that's the same kind of printer. It's just you just have a smaller area that they're printing. Is that correct, Pierre?
No.
Did you see that record?
Yes, I do have one. So
you have one?
Well, not one of hers, but
I was like, dude, they only made 200 of those.
This is just printed straight on there.
Oh, wow.
And so it's a digital printer. So with I think there's 36 different heads on there, and the record goes underneath it. It prints it, cures it with UV light. Then the robot flips it, does the other side. We've tested it out. Harm has actually cut out the center label, stuck it in for a month in his dishwasher. It went through every cycle, and it was still there. There was no difference. So that was, I thought, a pretty good durability test for.
And for people, since people are listening and can't see, I mean, it looks like a full color center label, same size, everything. It's really cool.
And like if you have a very busy label, that's easier, because if you think about a printing head, it has all these kind of little channels in there. If you miss one little dot, you see a small line. So a very busy label is easy to print, but a label which has one solid color is difficult. You can see anything on that, and we did a lot of software upgrades on that, and that's now actually working really well.
Cool.
Look, we had a bunch of samples at the Haarlem show, and I think it was very well received.
Awesome.
Very cool.
You mentioned that part of the problem is getting the material out to the edges. So similarly to pressing plants, how's the incidence of like non-fill and stitching and like all our favorite errors in the QC department?
It's not there. We don't have no problem with that.
Wow.
Yeah.
And because your stampers are thinner, I mean, I have so many questions when it comes to like putting the stamper in and then like having dust in between the stamper and the mold. And then that, looks like orange peel. And then you've got all these other like random, like actual mechanical, physical errors that can happen. Yeah. So how is that?
So AR stemples are very flat, which helps a lot with the process. Before we do that, we wipe them with alcohol, the backside, front side, with a lint-free wipe. Then we mount them into the mold, both sides of the mold. Mold closes, we do a couple of shots, and typically that takes out any dust or impurities out of it. The only things which can happen is if, for example, the molding machine cooled down overnight and there's some hard material in there, you will immediately see that on the record. But for the rest ones, that's why it stays on a very equal temperature constantly. Even if it's shut down, it keeps the material still somewhat warm. You had the same problem when we did CDs.
Okay.
But yeah, for molding, we don't have that stitching issue or orange peel, none of that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Those QC departments must have a pretty easy day then. That's
yeah,
great.
I was going to ask, so is QC looking to mostly make sure stampers are correct and that type of thing?
Fix pops,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. And you can even automate that a little bit with some software. But typically, what we do is we listen to a couple full records, and then we do spot checks, making sure that everything stays the same. Where the problems are: lead in, lead out, and the silence between songs. That's typically where it happens.
So what sort of overall impact do you think that this technology could have on the industry and the environment if it were to be more adopted?
Good one. One, of course, the material. Yes, PVC is what it is, and the PVC used in Europe is already multiple times better than what's used in Asia, or actually also here in the US. Some of the stuff used here still has some lead in there and some toxics in, stabilizers in there, which are not needed. It's I think one of the big steps to do something better. Of course, there is biovinyl, which is a good step in the right direction. Evolution is making big steps into a different type of plastic for biodegradable plastic PLA, I believe it is, or PHA, and great steps. I think everybody has to do their best in doing something for the environment. I of course believe that we made the biggest step into that, and hopefully it will be adapted by more and more people, that eventually, once the older machines are getting really old, that instead of sticking with PVC, that they will switch. And hopefully maybe the artists will demand that. So we don't want that anymore. We want something better.
When you're getting longer life out of stampers too, because you're not using pressure on them, right? So I mean, that's a huge part right there, because you don't have to make infinite amount of stampers. Now they're lasting for, I think you said between 5,000 and 10,000 copies, correct?
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, imagine the savings, if you stamper copy of stamper at average cost, but you're looking still at $60 to $70 per side, and they traditionally last 1,200 1,500 shots. It's big savings. And not only that, also the mold, a traditional mold lasts a year before it, starts leaking and gets issues. Ours has been in there for 4 years now, given
Right.
not continuously running, but the yeah there's no degassing of the material. There's no chlorides, which slowly eat your mold and your stampers.
Well, and just that mechanical pressure
Yeah.
of smashing things together will wear things out over time for sure.
The molding used is also used in automotive industry and all kind of generic purposes. So the cycle time we have is so slow that, because I asked, okay, what are the wear and tear parts in the molding machine, and he started laughing. He said, well, you might need a motor in 20 years. So I was like, okay, that's great to know, but so wear and tear for those type of machines, they're so rigid, it's so slow. I mean, in our industry it's fast, 20 seconds, but in generic molding it's slow. I mean, the CD is made every 3.5 seconds.
Since it's traditional stampers, I think some people listening may be curious to know, like, is the beginning process the same then? How are you getting to your stampers?
Exactly the same. So we get lacquers from a whole variety of cutters. We get them here in our facility, and we do the same thing. We silver them. We do slow plate and then fast plate, punch, polish, and form them. That's it.
Do you foresee that being some technology that you'll try to look into as well, considering that lacquer manufacturing is also a scary situation?
Yes, we are working on lacquers. It's
Hallelujah.
I know.
That's the first time on this.
Everybody bookmark that.
In 45 episodes, this is the first time anybody has ever said anything about we're doing this thing.
If we've seen it like, oh my God, this is just a disaster to happen.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But in Europe they have DMM. In the US it's not popular. I mean, we've never get a request for that.
Well, that was going to be my next question, is like, how heavy, like how beneficial would it be to just have metal work done immediately, like cut metal for your processing?
Yes, that would be definitely possible.
Yeah.
What I've and I'm not an expert in it, but what I've heard from Renus, who just was 50 years in the industry cutting, he said, some music is better on lacquers and some is better on metal, and he has his preference. And when I hear the music, I go, he decides. He says, okay, this is way better on metal, and other stuff is way better on lacquers. The US is predominantly lacquers. I mean, we haven't gotten any stampers made from metal.
I think there's only maybe 8 total lathes in the continental US that have the capability to cut metal, maybe, and it might even be 4. But I mean, it is true. And everybody that's listening, we can reference the episode that Jet was talking about, where they did a 1-to-1 of the same band that shall not be named on lacquer and DMM and that kind of quality. What I've heard from my mastering journey is that Euro music has always been better in DMM because of like the high frequencies and like the more aggressive high frequency response for DMM, and where in the North Americas, where we use a lot more like acoustic instruments like drums and bass and less synthy material, it's better with a lacquer because it allows you a little bit more width. So
yeah, it's actually funny you said it, because last Saturday the Vinyl Alliance did a little comparison, and I don't have the ears for it, and I'm not trained, but there were quite a couple audio engineers in there, a couple of ladies from Sony were there, and they had the DMM there. They had a regular mass stamper from lacquer there. They had a regular and a vinyl there, and they were just switching between the 3 same players, everything up, and the switching was maybe not always perfect, and it was not a lab setup, but it was really interesting how close everything was together.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
You know, the eventually we figured out that the DMM was a little louder,
Mhm.
almost a little brighter.
Mhm.
That's kind of the only thing and I could hear, and most people there. But it
Yeah.
was cool to see. Cool, very cool to hear. It was a really nice project. They did that very well. I like that.
I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah,
Love it.
I'd like to do something like that as well for people to hear because it is. I think the lager has a little bit like of a warmer.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're getting close on time. So, did you have anything else, Robin?
Well, we've kind of gone through all of our like technical questions, but uh Pierre, I want to know about your record collection. Are you a prolific collector as well? How did you decide that you were going to come into this and go like, this is my whole life now? Because we've all had that like little moment where we're like, you know what, I like these weird plastic discs. I think I'm going to devote my whole rooms of my houses to this and all of my paychecks.
So when I was in the Netherlands, I had a reasonable. I was a young kid, didn't have that much money, but a good collection. And I've actually asked my mother. I was there last week, and so where is it? She goes like, I don't know. So I still have to look for it. But I restarted when I did this. I really was like, well, wait a minute. I had this old record from Michael Jackson back in the days, and I had a white Elvis album. I got to find that. So I've been going through secondhand stores, and of course, whatever we make here, I've got now myself. At least in the office, let's put it that way. We do a lot more than just vinyl. We have a few other businesses we run, and this is definitely the sexier part of our business. That's for sure. Way more fun than anything else. I mean, you have a small printing company who does T-shirts, so we make our own green vinyl shirts. We have a company who does everything for eyeglasses, so all your lenses, all the coatings on top of that, the shapes. We sell lenses, etc. And then we still have the traditional CD DVD industry. We supply with raw materials and spare parts. But that vinyl is way more sexy. People are way more creative. And it's so much more fun.
Oh, that's great.
I definitely enjoy this.
Good. I mean, we that's the key to all of this advancement and innovation, right? Is having passionate people in these spaces. I mean, and that having a government that was interested in helping you guys figure it out. That's I think one of the big parts for sure. How has the reception been in the States?
Actually, pretty good.
Yeah.
We made some pretty decent artists. I think the largest one was our friends from Zach Brown Band. We did their triple album here. The group we're working now, they're located in California, working with, they are super excited. And people are involved out of the music side and also out of the environmental side.
Right.
So that it's kind of the good combination for us that we found people who are have been musicians or are producers right now and know a lot of artists, and then people who are do presentations at the UN and all a couple of weeks ago in New York, and are super passionate about anything sustainability and environment. Good combination for us, and we love to be partnered with them. It's going to be great.
Was North Carolina like your first pick of locations? Like, did they have a situation that was more I guess friendly for like a new industry to kind of come in?
No. I mean, this is where we have our headquarters. We're located here. We have about 50,000 square foot building here.
Wow.
We also make stampers, for example, for the CD and DVD industry. So we already have most of the technology here. It just made sense to place it here. And my reason I'm here is because when first Philips and Sony invented the CD, PMDC DuPont was here, and that's what it was.
You mentioned the UN, which just gave me a quick question. So, what about run sizes? Can you do lower run sizes because of that?
Yeah, I can make one. But it just
Cute.
doesn't make sense. You know,
Yeah.
your stampers, your lacquers are so expensive.
Well, and so that's the question. Like, what is the optimal run size for, and how are, like, if I was a band right now and I wanted to get a run a green vinyl made, how would I do that?
Fairly simple. Just, you know, they can contact me directly.
Okay.
And we stick kind of with 300. Financially wise, it just makes sense with the cost of your stampers, the cost of your lacquers, etc. A hard part with lower volumes is your printed artwork.
Right.
You know, your jackets, your sleeves,
Still
typically
500-ish.
with a white sleeve.
Always.
There's not many people who do that.
Yeah.
They start from 1,000, 1,000 and up. What I see most, well, there's a lot of bands who do like 500. Super interesting local guys. But we see more 1,000 to 2,000 records. That's kind of where everybody, it's affordable. You know, they can oversee the sales. A lot of these guys, I mean, we've done shipments to every city a band was playing in. You know, send me a box to this hotel, send a box to that hotel, just so
Oh,
they
wow.
travel with them, which is kind of cool. And then we actually brought records to a concert in Charleston, which was really fun.
Nice.
Yeah. But
And
no, I think if you look at the overall cost with lacquers, stampers, your printed art, your artwork, 1,000 to 2,000 is a perfect run size.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And then of course we do family making, so we typically keep the mother on stock, and then we can either run another stamper if the old one gets damaged or it's not usable anymore.
Okay, so I guess the last question that we always ask is, if you could make your very own 7-inch record, because as we've discussed, they're the best records, and you can make a custom one where you have anything on your A side and anything on your B side, the perfect Pierre mixtape, what would that record look like? What would be your A and what would be your B?
Oh, gee, that's a hard question, actually.
I know. It's the most perplexing one I've ever come up with, and I'm so proud.
November Rain.
Oh, see, this is why we're friends.
Absolutely. I mean, my birthday is in November, but it's still probably one of the best performances I've ever seen.
Gorgeous song. Yeah.
Guns N' Roses.
I don't know, maybe any AC/DC song on the backside would be great.
Rippers. Wicked.
Yeah.
Axel, if you're listening, we need some green vinyl of a 7-inch. Thank you very much.
Well, I mean, if you guys are, hopefully next year we'll have it here, but if you ever in the Netherlands, close to Eindhoven, let us know. You're more than welcome to see the machine in live. I mean, no problem.
Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. We were trying to be there for Harlem, but
Yeah.
we didn't get.
You missed a good show. It was
Yeah.
one of the better ones, and Harlem is pretty. It's a great little city.
Hopefully next year.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll tell Brian to redo it in Harlem, and
We can stay in Nook's house. It'll be great.
that'd be cool.
Well, thank you so much, Pierre. This is great. So really appreciate your time.
It was fun. It was, you're always like, okay, what are they going to ask? But it was.
We're just going to ask for your formulas and your all of your technical specs, and then
we have a little patent on it. That's
yeah. I was curious though, do you have like audio recordings or anything, like a sample or something that you give out that you could send us that we could record and just put at the end of the episode so people can hear what they sound like?
Sure. There's actually our friends from KDG have done a A/B comparison. I think I'll get the I think it's also on LinkedIn, but I'll send it to you guys, and I'll send you some records.
I'd love to share them so people can see.
Not sure which genre it is, but we have some.
I mean, we take so good.
Mm.
Yeah.
You got a nice collection behind you. Yeah, that's awesome. Which also is a benefit in working in this industry. You get all these music you've never heard of, and you listen to, and you're like, wow,
Yeah.
Surprise. Surprise. Well, thank you guys so much. It was fun.
Great,
Thank you.
We'll do it again when we start to set them up in all these factories, huh?
Yeah.
That sounds great. Great idea.
All right.
Right.
Take care. Thank you again.
Thanks, Jen.
All right.
Thanks, Robin.
Bye. And now here's a sample of how these records sound.
Purple haze all in my brain. Lately things don't seem the same. I'm acting funny, but I don't know why. Excuse me while I kiss the sky. Sometimes I'm right and I can be wrong. My own beliefs are in my song. The butcher, the banker, the drummer, and then it makes no.
Thanks for joining us on the Women in Vinyl podcast. You can join our ever-growing list of sponsors. Other record labels: Selector, Couple Design, Eargasm, Groove Washer, Glowtronics, New Gen Audio, and Vinyl Revolution Record Show. And thanks for sponsoring the show. Hey, as always, you can join our conversation on Instagram or send us a note at media@womeninvinyl.com. Clock us. Send us info. If you have a question, we got the answer, or we'll find it. We won't lie to you. And check out womeninvinyl.com for past episodes, the store, the job board, and the library of resources. Don't forget to like and subscribe and give us a review on your favorite podcast delivery method. You can also contribute to furthering our mission at patreon.com/womeninvinyl. Hey, guess what? This episode, 45 minutes. You know there was more. You want more? You get more. Go to patreon.com and you can get more. And you'll find all the B-sides, the deep cuts, and the amazing extras, including longer episodes, and contribute to the creation of scholarships and educational opportunities to further the demystification, the infiltration of more women and non-binary identifying humans into the vinyl making space, decreasing those turnaround times every week. Yeah, we love your records. We want you to love them too. womeninvinyl.com.
This episode has been brought to you by Women in Vinyl and Red Spade Records. Thank you for listening. Please remember to subscribe, and you can always contact us directly by visiting www.womeninvinyl.com.